Hey everybody, this is Eileen Email with In Phase, In Tune with Autism podcast. Here we'll discuss mindset, efforts to increase mind-body connection, and much more as it pertains to autism. My hope is that this information will reach those who need it and help provide a better understanding of the mind and body of someone with autism. Hello. Welcome. It is Eileen here with In Phase, In Tune with Autism podcast. If you are a new listener or if you are a listener who has been here, welcome back. And all right, today I got an interesting one for you. I have an interesting one for you. So here we go. So there's this podcast that has been out for probably a little over a month now, maybe a month or two, and it's called the Telepathy Tapes. What this podcast discusses is people with non-speaking autism, as well as people with just autism and people all over the spectrum, have telepathic abilities. Okay? Where are you at? Where's your head at? Are you still with me? Yeah. Telepathy has been one of those ideas that has been super taboo all throughout history. There has been very sound research on it for decades that the scientific community has completely and blatantly shut out or ignored because of whatever specific agenda they have. And I'm not going to get into that, but we all know, I think that we're all well aware that to some degree, we know that things are hidden from the public, things that are actual truths, actual facts. And I'm not going to get into that. I'm not even going to get into the reasons why or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about in this podcast. But telepathy, along with plenty other ideas throughout history, is one of those things that has been completely taboo, shut out, and hidden. People have lost their jobs over claiming that there might be something to telepathy. So if you don't know what telepathy is, I'm sure you do, but if you don't, telepathy is nonverbal communication, basically. I mean, I haven't looked it up. You can look up the definition, but basically it's being able to hear thoughts, read someone's mind, that type of thing. Okay. So this podcast has come out and it's now number 4 on Apple Podcasts, I believe. And they're showing stories all around the world of people. I think plenty of them are non-speaking autistics, but like I said, just people on the spectrum who have this ability. And they have done plenty of experiments to prove this 10 times over. Okay. So, but it's so taboo, right? So taboo. And here we go. I'm going to be dropping the truth bomb here, which I haven't talked about this in my podcast or like openly. This is something that I've experienced firsthand multiple times. When I first found out, I also realized, oh, we don't talk about this. Nobody talks about this in the community. It's super taboo. We don't want people to think that we're crazy. We don't want people to discredit the letterboard and that method and those methods. So we don't talk about it. So there was a lot of fear around it. And also, so there's just like no question. Like I was like not going to talk about it, and this is years ago now. I mean, this is probably 2018. When you wake up to these types of truths, like you might think, oh, okay, telepathy. Okay, it exists. Oh, that's crazy. It will change your entire world. And there are other aspects to my own personal journey, but this took me on a journey. Wow. And so the reason that I'm sharing this, number one, because I feel like what I'm going to tie it to is truth and it's going to be helpful and it's going to open people's minds and open people's hearts and open people up to presence and actually slowing down and questioning things and living more than just on the surface level, which I believe that I was put on this earth to do that type of thing, which I've ignored for a very long time because I was battling with trying to live out the path that seemed like it made sense. But that didn't work for me. All right. So yeah, what kept me from sharing in the past was just like, I was told not to, right? And so I just didn't, I was new in the field. I didn't say anything. And then what also kept me from it was I deeply care about the people that I work with and I care about the community. And I've seen the way that people will shut that idea down and will shut down letterboard altogether, and, just the negative, fearful energy around it. And I didn't want anyone to leave and stop doing letterboard because of this new idea and become afraid of it. That was one reason. Another reason was, personal fears like, oh, people will think I'm crazy. People will think I'm nuts. And, it's gotten to the point. It's gotten to the point where, which I'm going to share with you today, that it's just so, for me, it's so tied to these guys as a whole, collectively, autism, their, for a lack of a better word, purpose in the world. Because I think a lot of times we take away their purpose and their power in the world. I believe that we were all born with a power. We were all born with a place in the world where we belong. And we're conditioned to not sit in that seat of belonging, but try to squeeze ourselves to make ourselves fit in. I'm going to bring my perspective to this because I believe it'll shed light and open up that knowing that these guys are absolutely here for a very important purpose and job type thing. So yeah, I shared the reasons why I didn't want to talk about this, or I just didn't even think about talking about it. But, little pings here and there kept on saying, hey, like maybe you need to share this. Maybe you need to share this. I didn't. I was afraid people were going to think I'm crazy. But I got to the point where it was so tied to what I believe is this knowing. And also it was kind of like this point where it's like, if I share this information and people think I'm crazy, okay, like it doesn't matter. If I share this information and people don't want to work with me anymore, okay, then that doesn't matter because integrity is my number one. And so I'm like, if I omit this information, am I being integral? And at the same time, it's not something. So I'm going to share from here, from my personal podcast. It's not something that I'm just going to like bring to you or bring to people because, my job, my physical job is to help autistics train their motor so they can talk on the letterboards or they can communicate and receive education through the letterboards. Like that is my job. At this point, it is more than just my beliefs, like this telepathy, which I'm going to get to, which I know you're ready for probably. It's not just a personal belief of mine. It's something that I've experienced. It's something that thousands of people all over the world have experienced. And they are now, the data is too overwhelming. The data is too overwhelming. Yeah, so it's factual information now. So reason for the podcast and dropping this big telepathy bomb truth is number one, it's like inside of me. It's like born inside of me. It's trying to come out and I've been trying to like keep it in, but I'm just going to let it come out because it's going to feel better after. So that's my number one because I feel like I'm supposed to share this information. Number two is I think it's going to offer that perspective that I was talking about. Our perspective, it literally is the lens that we see the world with, and it's going to shape everything around us. It's going to shape your entire experience. It's going to shape how you feel about things, which is essentially the only thing you ever have. This now moment, the way you're experiencing the world, whatever glasses you're wearing, that's what you have. You never have anything that's outside of the now. You don't have the past anymore, and you're not going to have the future until it comes. And when the future comes, it will be a now moment. Okay. So I believe that our perspective is the most important thing in the entire world. So if I can offer this information and have someone's perspective shift up and become a little more hopeful or realize how, help them realize their power in the world of being an autism parent and being the one who nurtures this very important soul, this very important person in the world, then great. Then great. My purpose for sharing is complete. So I think I've spoke before on this podcast about how I feel like these guys have, this important job in the world. Now, let me get a little into that. And this goes beyond autism. So as humans collectively, I think mainstream wise, especially conditioning wise, we don't, and just if you're not interested in this, I've always been drawn to this type of thing, drawn to it, to contemplation about it. As humans, we are animals. We are always progressing. We are always evoluting. We don't stop. We don't just stay in one spot. Like we are always changing. And, whatever perspective you want to take, if you want to say evolution, we're always progressing. This is true. If you want to say God and creation is always creating, this is always true. And both sides, it's intentional. It's an intentional thing. If you look at nature and you look at, let's talk about like the magic of a child being born and and what it takes to have that happen, that creation happen. I mean, this is intentional stuff. This isn't just random. It's intentional creation. So there's no mistakes. There's no mistakes. And, the numbers for autism are just rising, especially this non-speaking autism with this very extra sensitivity to sensory perception is only rising. We're only seeing more of that. This is not a mistake. This is not a mistake. And I hear people talk. I've gone to lunch with someone the other day and I hear them talk and I'm like, they don't get it. They don't get it. They are looking at autism like it's a problem. Now, don't get me wrong. I've worked very closely with autism parents, and I'm very much aware of how challenging it is on a daily basis to raise a child in this world who has autism. And my heart is with you. My heart is with you. The way that our world thinks and the way that we've been conditioned to think is like linear. It should make sense. A plus B should equal C. Everything should be convenient. And then I pick up on like collective themes. I always have as a kid. I didn't have the language for it as a child, but I've always picked up on it. I know I did. And the theme that we're like conditioned by and that which keeps us contracted and not accepting the whole picture, what keeps us not accepting the whole picture to me, which is God's picture, which is creation's picture, whatever you want to say, is we think it should be like this convenient thing, this A plus B equals C. And then there's autism that doesn't like fit the bill, right? And a lot of us don't fit the bill. We've been trying to fit ourselves into that little straight line. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But yeah, like I said, I hear people talk and they look at autism like a problem. When I first moved here a couple of years ago, I can't remember what company it was, but it was like a company around here and they had a fundraiser or something. And their t-shirt said something along the lines of like battling autism, battling against autism. And it's just like, dang, dude, they really don't get it. So here's my perspective. So evolution, God, creation doesn't make mistakes. These kids are coming in more and more and more with this extrasensory perception. And there's a reason because we have gotten so far away. I think we've strayed away from being. From being. Okay, stay with me because I'm getting a little abstract here. So being is just being without thoughts, without anything else. And that's it. Okay. It's perceiving. It's who you are. It's the perceiver. And we've got out of touch with being. So we don't know that we're beings. What we've become is what we think we are, is we think we are our thoughts. Okay. I feel like am I losing some of you? Am I losing some of you? So we think we are our thoughts and we're identified with our thoughts and we think we are our thoughts and we've lost a lot with that. We've lost a lot of connection. And this is where it gets abstract and it's about your own personal experience. But overall, I'm going to say we've lost connection. It's the reason for so much disease. It's the reason for so much anxiety and fear because we've simply lost touch with being in connection and we've become identified with our thoughts. So we think we are our thoughts. We think we are this personality that we created in the world that is really based on, and I'm getting like psychological here, I don't want to get too much into it, but based on patterns of fear, patterns of trying to stay accepted and trying to look like you're good or whatever, look like you're worthy, da 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 da. I'm not going to get into that. But so with this telepathy thing, why would creation do this? Why would they send people here who are experiencing sensory information in a whole different way, in a way where they can't ignore it? We can't even ignore it, right? It's happening to them, but we see, oh, they're experiencing something very different, right? So why would this happen? I believe it's because they're here to bring us back to our sense perception. Most of us are not even, I say most of us, like mainstream, if you're just living life and doing life and all the things, you're not even in your body. You're not even in your body. You don't feel your body. So if you just close your eyes and you're quiet and then you think the thought, hello, So you're the one who heard that hello, and that hello was a conscious thought. You were able to decide, okay, I'm going to say hello. And so that thought didn't carry much of a charge, probably. Now, what has happened? Getting back to what I was saying, we become identified with our thoughts. There's an endless thought stream, incessant, compulsive thought stream. And it's not of just hellos. Usually it's of contracted, fearful, compulsivity thoughts that are just streaming, but you're unaware of it. But guess what? There's charge with those thoughts because it holds energy. Thoughts hold energy. It's an actual thing. It's abstract, but I'd say it's tangible and it'll hold a charge, right? So think of a time when you were like kind of worried about something and you're like kind of feeling a little ick. You're like, oh, and then you have a thought. And then that thought makes you really worry and your body reacts to that. So this is what we're experiencing all day long. And like, it's like our attention has been hijacked. It's been hijacked. It's proven that where you put your attention, it grows in some way. It amplifies. And so if your attention's been hijacked and you don't know where to put it, and if it's conditioned by all this incessant unconscious thinking, then you have fear just like programmed all over. And so the way that I look at things, there's love versus fear. And I think that we've become unaware of how much energy and whatever you want to say, however you want to look at whatever lens you want to look at it in, how much like worship time we've given to fear. And so I think that they're here to snap us out of it. God, this gets so complex. This gets so complex. But I think that because we've become so quick and so far away from being and presence, mainstream wise, and our attention has been hijacked, basically, we've lost our way. These people are here. They have a power, they have a presence here to bring us back, to our sense perception, to actually feel the sensations in our body. Because many of us have dissociated and we don't even know it. Our body is, to bring it to, I know this is like kind of religious, but our body is our temple. Our body is our temple. And if we were conscious, we would treat it like a temple. Many of us don't, right? We even joke about it. We don't bring sacredness into everyday life. Overall, it's hard because I feel like I see it and I feel it and I know it. It's hard to like get it out in a word sometimes. So I kind of might have lost my way a little bit, but I'll probably podcast more about it in the future. And that's kind of just like the opening today. That'll be the opening. It would make sense that these guys who have extra sense perception, who are experiencing the energies of everything around in a completely different way, that they could feel the energy of thoughts and they could decipher that. It would make sense. And it's the truth. And so the last thing I'll offer here is parents, like when you get down, just remember that your child is challenging and growing everybody around them. They're expanding everybody around them. And the people who are being with them are either going to rise to the occasion or they won't. But they have a real purpose and they're not, when those thoughts come in, or those people who talk about autism as being like a problem, leave that behind. Leave that behind. Yeah. These guys are powerful. They're very powerful. And we have so much to learn from the way they see the world. We have so much to learn from their gifts. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Okay, that's it. That's my truth. Yeah. Oh, also know that they can handle their experience. That's the one thing that like really got me through whenever, when I started to realize in the very beginning, like, oh, these are competent people who are in a body that they can't control. I think we all receive divine messages. I received a message from the divine, and it was they can handle their experience. They have the power to handle their experience. So remember that as hard as it might get sometimes, yeah, they're expansive enough to do it, and they signed up for this to help the world, ultimately, to help the greater good, to shift all of us. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. That's it. I'm doing it. All right, so thank you so much for joining, and thank you for everybody who's tuning back in. I know that I have some listeners from everywhere, from other countries and stuff too. So hey, what's up? Thank you for listening. And please, email me if you have any questions, if you want me to podcast on a different subject, if you want to hear about my personal experience with telepathy. Yeah, so you can email me inphaseinTune@gmail.com. And all right, later.